For those unfamiliar, can you please explain the Animals Low Welfare Activities Abroad Act and why it is crucial for marketers to be familiar with this new legislation?
So the aim of the Act is simply to steer people away from so-called tourist attractions, where the animals have suffered enormous cruelty, making them be obedient enough for people to be able to swim with them or ride them or do whatever they're going to do with them. And that level of cruelty is, as I said just now, absolutely appalling. We want to steer people away from that into areas where the animals themselves are treated with dignity and humanity.
The world's largest travel site, TripAdvisor, announced that it would discontinue selling tickets for specific tourism experiences where tourists come into physical contact with captive wild animals or endangered species. If the market is already changing, why do we need legislation?
The fact that the market is already changing is very good news. Long may that continue. And I applaud any company which is moving towards ensuring that people who are enjoying trips abroad with animals only do so where those animals are treated with humanity and with dignity. But there are always, of course, going to be bad actors. There are always going to be problems, and we desperately need this legislation, I think, as a backstop. Apart from anything else, legislation can help raise the profile of the issue, to say to people, there is an issue here you've got to deal with. So that's why it's important. And I actually think there is a role for legislation in pushing along changes in societal attitudes. In Parliament, I've done a lot of work on LGBT equality, among other things. And each time there's been a piece of legislation like that, it happened with equal marriage, people always said, no, this legislation is going too far. But the point was, it helped foster changes in societal attitudes. And that's what we need here. We don't just need changes in marketing and advertising practices. We need people to understand we shouldn't be booking a holiday to go and see an elephant which has been treated with barbarism. Given
the widespread acknowledgement of cruelty towards dolphins, big cats and Asian elephants, are there any other species that we can expect to be incorporated into this legislation? And how will secondary legislation be decided?
Okay, so it will also cover whales, for instance, and monkeys, and a lot of avian and marine life. But there is one other species that's going to be impacted by this, and that's humans. During the course of this legislation going through, I met the sister of a lady who had been on a holiday in Southeast Asia, seeing elephants, and these elephants had been treated with the most barbarous cruelty imaginable. They often get hooks shoved into their bodies and pulled so they bleed in order to make them obedient, and sometimes these animals go wild, and she was trampled to death. And she's one of many tourists each year who are injured by animals whose lives have been so warped by the cruelty that they become out of control. So this bill, this legislation is actually about saving human lives as well. At the moment, secondary regulations are being worked on and consulted on. I hope they'll come into force very quickly, and I, for one, will certainly be pushing the government to make sure that they make good on this legislation and it has an impact as soon as is practical.
Discerning the differences between ethical and problematic wildlife experiences is a difficult task. What steps can marketing agencies and brands who want to participate in animal promotions conduct in light of this new legislation?
So I agree, it's not always going to be an easy thing to do, but I think the answer is you've got to do your homework. And that's something where the IPM could actually be of real help to its members. And it's something where there are a lot of charities involved in this space who can also help with advice. So if you're involved in marketing and offering as a prize to go somewhere abroad to swim with dolphins or whatever, it's not that difficult, I suspect, to check out, is this somewhere where the dolphins have been treated properly and ethically, or is this somewhere where they've been cruelly treated, kept in confined spaces, forced to go out of the water in a way which damages them, all those sorts of things. So I'm afraid it does mean a bit of legwork, but the IPM can be of real help, and I think the animal charities such as Save the Asian Elephants that I worked with on this act can certainly help do so as well.